The year is 2022, and Alien 3 isn't the only movie in the Alien series celebrating a milestone. We have now reached the 10th anniversary of Ridley Scott's first Alien prequel film, Prometheus. It was released in North America on the 8th of June, 2012. There had been a good 3 decades or so leading up to this moment. Ever since the release of the original 1979 film, fans and audiences in general were extremely curious about the events that preceded the Nostromo's ill-fated descent into LV-426. What events led to that encounter with the mysterious spacecraft and the cargo of eggs within? What ignited the fire, illuminating the nightmare creature which could spell certain doom for all of humanity? For years, filmmakers involved with the series to one degree or another posed to answer such questions, and Ridley Scott hinted time and time again that he wanted to go back to this unique world. There was a point, though, when it all seemed like a pipe dream. It was all just talk, and would never come to full realization. A great many of us lost hope to ever see something even close to that. But we were wrong. So wrong. Prometheus came down from the heavens and brought the fire of the gods down to Earth with terrifying consequences. The prequel was a go. Ridley Scott was back. We soon learned that this came with an important caveat. It wasn't actually a prequel. At least, that's what we were told. Scott insisted on as much, but winked that fans would recognize strands of alien DNA. A lot more telling in hindsight, I suppose. I'm sure most people are comfortable with calling it a prequel. I know I am, but if you want to get into semantics, then sure, you could say it's a separate film within the same universe, however you'd like to put it. That was probably the safest way to describe it leading up to the release. In fact, a lot of the press seemed to shy away from calling it a prequel, or a new Alien movie, but instead came up with a fair enough and certainly true focus. This was Ridley Scott's first science fiction film in 30 years, having last explored the genre in 1982 with Blade Runner. That was good enough. That was exciting enough. In the years since Blade Runner, Ridley Scott lent his talents to every type of genre you could think of. Since then, and up to Prometheus, he had made many hits. He had been nominated for the Best Director Academy Award 3 times, and seemed to continually defend the title of one of the best living directors. But it was that combination of Ridley Scott and science fiction that really excited people. Alien and Blade Runner were among the best the genre had to offer. Both Alien, appreciated in its time, and Blade Runner, appreciated a little later, pushed the boundaries of storytelling and how special effects could be used. Just imagining what Scott could do with the latest effects and the reputation to justify the budget made the concept of going back to Alien all the more irresistible. The modern Prometheus. The film came into a vastly different world than that of Alien and Blade Runner, no doubt. Movies and the movie-going experience had changed in countless ways, but one specific and very notable change was the resurgence of the 3D presentation. Arguably, 3D was at its peak in 2012, thanks largely to the popularity of James Cameron's Avatar 3 years prior. You can still see movies in 3D today, of course, but back in those days at least, it was taken seriously by those who saw its benefits. Certain movies would be filmed specifically for 3D presentations, such as the case with Prometheus. Ridley Scott became very fascinated with the possibilities of 3D immersion, and claimed at the time that he'd want to keep making movies in the format. Whether you liked this fad or not, whether you actually felt a true sense of immersion or not, it was another exciting prospect on top of everything else the movie was offering. Unlike with Alien 3 and its 30th anniversary, I don't really need to look back and conjure up vague memories of when I saw it or how I ended up seeing it. I remember it quite well. I was there. I was ready opening day. I didn't get a chance to see the 3D version that day, but I would end up checking out an IMAX 3D screening the following week. The 3D was pretty cool, I have to admit, but both presentations were immersive enough in my book. It was a great experience to see on the big screen, with the big sound, and return to this world that really began for me next to the flicker of a CRT TV and a VCR. Big things have small beginnings. And I guess I can't really ask myself how it's held up for me either, because, well, I've always loved the movie. I'm using the word love here, and I mean it. I still think it's one of the best science fiction films of the last decade. I think it's a visual marvel. I think it lived up to my own personal hype. And if anything, my appreciation for it has only grown stronger after repeat viewings, and as I continue to delve deeper into the movie with the theories and explanations here on this channel. It continues to surprise me in many ways. Most importantly for me, Prometheus really reinvigorated my interest in the series as a whole. post-AVP movies, I was feeling like the franchise was in a really bad place. The movies in this series became the same kind of B pictures that Alien took inspiration from, but rose to a new level. Prometheus was kind of the same way, but with a vengeance. It's very much a glossy B-movie, but it sincerely takes to heart what it is and what its characters are exploring. I think that's exactly what the series needed at the time, to go back to that underlying principle. I'll never forget that sort of high I felt coming out of the movie. You know it's good when you feel a little numb to the world after and have to adjust. And of course everything about the movie was just turning in my head. I was thinking about all the ideas it threw out there, and how it definitely had a Blade Runner vibe, and how interesting this robot was, David. The great Michael Fassbender. It's easy to think of David as the main character of this prequel series now, of course, with the further entry of Alien Covenant continuing his part of the story, but it was a surprise back then. There was a strong enough sense that Noomi Rapace would be the last one standing, but the robot, who goes through this extraordinary change throughout the movie, who we don't know if we can trust but feel some kind of attraction to, ends up partnering with the lead. That was unexpected, and I really liked that. And I thought about the gruesome moments of the film. Needless to say, the trilobite scene was a real kicker, and that stuck with me. But maybe it would be the visuals that stood out the most to me. This is an exceptionally good-looking movie. It's absolutely breathtaking. We have this great marriage of physical art and set decoration, aided by top-notch CGI. The CGI and special effects in general brought it to a whole new level. They were expertly commanded. And the film would go on to receive an Academy Award nomination for its visual effects. That would mark the last time any of the movies in the Alien series would be nominated for such an award, the previous actually being Alien 3 in the same category. And the music, Mark Streitenfeld, it was glorious. How this score didn't get an Oscar nomination is a mystery to me. Really, such a beautiful score, and after seeing the movie, I actually went out and got the soundtrack on a CD. And that actually might have been the last time I would ever buy one of those. Even in 2012, it felt a little strange to buy a CD. I guess when you're on that after-movie high, such strangeness follows. But then you ease back into things, you go home, you check out some reviews, see what people are saying on social media, and yeah, it kind of bummed me out a little bit that it was getting a lot of hate. But I saw lots of love and support for it too, and that's a relief at least. I could say I'm not crazy, there are many other admirers out there, but it's just going to be this divisive thing, unfortunately. Not universally loved, which I thought was going to be the case, maybe naively so. Realistically, when is that ever the case with anything? All I knew then, and what I know now, is that it's a great movie in my eyes, so nothing can really take that away. And that's just how it is with me. If you don't like the movie, that's fine. If maybe in the past 10 years you've grown to enjoy it a little more, or even a lot more, I think that's fantastic. Whatever the case may be, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Prometheus 10 years later below, but I thought for today's video I'd do something just a little bit different. As mentioned earlier, Prometheus came into a much different world than Alien, and even much different than the previous last-branded Alien movie, AVP Requiem, in 2007 going to 2008. Movie reviews were changing, and a lot of people were seeking out reviews directly from YouTube, from the everyman, the guy with the camera, and an opinion. A lot of the reviewers, who are pretty much firmly well-known today, were still on the rise back then. The usual suspects, like, say, Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckman, Red Letter Media, folks like that. If you've ever looked up a movie review on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen at least one review from one of these channels. They're pretty much the standard movie review guys. Back then, however, there was a much smaller channel, just shooting the shit and sharing opinions on movies, called Hi, This is Derek237. You might know him. Of course, I know him. He's me. In June 2012, I offered up my own review of Prometheus on my little channel, and I thought it might be a fun trip down memory lane to take a look back on this review. I remember having to re-edit it several times because YouTube was even worse with copyright back then, if you can believe that, and you could very easily lose an entire channel if the copyright bots didn't like you. I think I used trailer clips originally, but settled on still images for the final review. It's altogether very rough. The audio is rough, the presentation is rough, I stumble quite a bit. I'm honestly a little apprehensive to show this, but we all start somewhere, and this is all in good fun. It's a time capsule to see back to when I first saw the movie and how I expressed my thoughts on it. I thought about maybe going through it commentary style, stopping intermittently to justify this or that about what I was saying, maybe pointing out something I feel differently about now, maybe even cutting around it for time. But I think the best way is to just leave it as is. This is what I had to say at the time. Make of it what you like. If you'd prefer to leave this video now, that's fine. Please leave some thoughts on Prometheus in the comments for its 10th anniversary. If you wish to continue, then I admire your bravery. I hope you enjoy it, or at least find it interesting. Happy 10th anniversary to Prometheus. Thank you very much for watching today. Until next time, this is Alien Theory, and I'm still searching.
We are living in a post-Prometheus world, and it's an exciting time. As someone who's been a fan of the Alien franchise for practically his entire life, I can't begin to express how amazing it is that this movie even exists. I mean, for the longest time, the idea of an Alien prequel was just a fantasy. Something fans would talk and theorize about, and something that, occasionally, Ridley Scott would tease about every now and then. But there definitely was a point where I just thought an Alien prequel was about as likely as making it to the big screen as that Vega Brothers movie that Quentin Tarantino always talked about. I thought it was just pie-in-the-sky fanboy dreaming, but here is Ridley Scott, over 30 years later, returning to science fiction, returning to the Alien franchise with his vast, magnificent career now under his belt, and Prometheus is his latest film. And the weird thing is that not only did this movie exceed my impossibly high expectations, but it addressed many that I didn't even know I had. It is an extremely and surprisingly ambitious film, much more so than its sister film, Alien, which, as good as it is and as much as I love it, it really only serves as an exceptionally well-made B-horror monster movie, which is fine and it works terrifically, but Prometheus has completely different ideas and goals. It expands that first Alien movie in a big bad way, and in some ways devalues it and the subsequent sequels, letting us know that all along there were much larger factors at play. It's not necessarily a better movie than Alien. In fact, though they do have many similarities, it's almost pointless to compare them since they are ultimately drastically different movies. Prometheus is a more thoughtful science fiction picture, full of interesting ideas and philosophies, and a damn good amount of horror to back it up. It's not called Prometheus for kicks, that's for sure. I'm sure you know the plot, but in a nutshell, it's about a group of scientists who set out on an expedition to discover the source of humanity. Definitely not a lightweight concept. What I ultimately admired about the movie the most was the fact that it took its ideas seriously. It all wasn't made just for the sake of being made. It does have a purpose to be. It's its own unique movie. It's not simply, hey, here's some scary shit that happened before the first Alien. No, not at all. And strangely enough, some of its harshest criticisms are due to the fact that it doesn't directly connect to Alien. Well, good, I'm glad it doesn't. Scott said from the very beginning it wasn't a direct tie-in, and said that fans would recognize strands of Alien's DNA, and I think that's fair enough. And I'm glad that everything isn't spelled out for us either, and it's nothing set in stone. A lot of it is very open to interpretation. It's a movie about ideas, which I appreciated. It's not content to be another run-of-the-mill monster movie. Some truly interesting ideas and areas are explored or implied, and there's far too much for my little mind to wrap around with just one viewing. It features the scientists asking why to the great eternal question, bluntly staring science and new possibilities to this question in the face, and curiously it does not balk or dismiss religion at all. I mean, at least not entirely. I kind of think it would be outright pompous to not at least put it on the table. We know that some far-off alien species discovered in this movie created humans. Why? Well, we don't really find out. We do find out pretty quickly that this species wants us dead. Why? Well, again, we don't really find that out either. The questions raised in Prometheus are almost inconsequential. The answers to the questions aren't so much the focus here as the consequences to the questions. Yes, it may be a thinking man sci-fi movie that should be open for some pretty interesting debates all around, but at its core it's a cautionary tale and a scary, disturbing horror thriller. Normally I'm pretty good with horror movies. I'm kind of jaded. It takes a lot to really get under my skin. And there is some fucked up shit in this movie, really. I'm I'm almost, giddy over the fact that it affected me in the way that it did. Like that scene in the surgical pod. Holy shit, man, really, like I was cringing and covering my face in the movie theater. And that almost never really happens to me. And just in general, as being first and foremost a creature feature, it does indeed deliver. Much like the first Alien takes its inspiration from H.R. Geiger's art and introduces us to some new scary alien beings. I love the design of the original Alien, but it's simply been overexposed. It's just not scary anymore, and while yes, we do see some similar looking creatures, it was nice that they actually bothered to introduce fresh new ideas in the monster department. I also thought it had a lot of strength in its cast, which was exceptional. Michael Fassbender was definitely a standout, playing the ship's android David, and I really enjoyed the great Idris Elba as the ship's captain. There are two strong female characters, too, played by Noomi Rapace and Charlize Theron, and wisely they're not presented as carbon copies of Ripley, the role made famous by Sigourney Weaver, of course. Their character traits are different, but in a way with their qualities, such as Theron playing Meredith Vickers with her cold, no-nonsense attitude, and Rapace playing Elizabeth Shaw with a vulnerability and willingness to move forward in the face of unspeakable horror. They could almost be like mothers to her. Also, side note, wasn't Charlize Theron just incredibly hot in this movie? I mean, really. But anyway, I do understand. I really do understand and appreciate the criticisms to this movie. I'm not going to shoot anyone down for not liking it or claim some kind of intellectual superiority, but I am glad that they went in the direction that they did with Prometheus. I'm glad they kept it a little ambiguous. I'm glad they didn't boldly answer everything. I'm glad they didn't tie it in perfectly to Alien as if they were two pieces to a puzzle or something. And I'm glad it remained enough of a respectful distance from Alien so both movies still maintain a good amount of mystery to them. Just imagine, though, if Prometheus answered questions to everything. If it set every single piece in place and explained everything leading up to Alien to a T. I can't begin to fathom how unsatisfying that would actually be. I mean, hello, Star Wars prequels, anyone? And I can't help but remember something Stanley Kubrick said, which I'm too lazy to look up, but I'll paraphrase. What if, under the painting of the Mona Lisa, there was a subtitle that read, "She is smiling because she's having a secret affair"? I think too much explanation to art is counterproductive to art, so I'll gladly take Prometheus's ambiguity and unanswered questions, and I appreciate all the more for it. Prometheus is a scarring and devastating film, an excellent future-set thriller with some truly horrifying scenes and visuals that are wonderful to behold. It also offers great science fiction with fresh and fascinating ideas that just about warrant Ridley Scott's 30-year absence from the genre. Not only was it worth the wait, and not only does it trump all the Alien movies in a lot of ways, but it's a surefire contender for Movie of the Year and sure to go down as a classic. I loved it. I can't recommend it highly enough. Go see it.